A book can educate a child. That's why Quintin Pastrana built libraries to empower the dreams of our future leaders. So, Quintin, thank you for being part of this show called Self-Made. Can you share with us your childhood?
Well, Rebecca, thanks so much for having me over on your show. My childhood is a very special childhood because it's very simple, and I was very, very close to both my parents and my grandparents. So that nurturing environment, they taught me to be very, very conscious of other people's feelings, of the way people understand things, and how you need to first find out how you can communicate to them better before you get what you want. And I think that was a lesson they taught me. That made, obviously, when I started learning more about being competitive, that was a good way of also being able to balance that competitive edge.
So what's your happiest memory with your family when you were a kid?
At that time, we didn't have 100 channels in cable. There were probably only 5 when I was growing up. But it didn't matter because I wasn't exposed to that. And I was exposed to books, which really engage your imagination more. And so those were my favorite moments, where after a nice merienda with my mother, my grandmother in Binyan, for example, or my mother in Manila.
How was your life being a student?
That's an interesting question. As a student, it was actually very difficult because I had a learning disability when I was young, and so I wasn't always taking in what I learned, especially when it came to complex subjects like math. I always found it to be a little more difficult than my other classmates. And only later on in life, as a graduate student, did I learn that I did have a learning disability. But thankfully, I just persisted, and without being diagnosed or anything, that actually helped me, because my understanding is if you are diagnosed, they will give you medication for it, and that medication really dulls your mind. And thankfully, that didn't happen to me.
So many students right now go through a lot of challenges, like what you've gone through before. So what's your best advice to them? How to handle that kind of situation if they are going through that right now?
Rebecca, I mean, it's a really important lesson for people to learn, hopefully not too late. I think the main thing I learned that people should understand, especially nowadays when there's so many distractions. You got social media, you've got games, you've got your smartphone, you've got your tablets, and there's not a lot of time to keep quiet. And that's, I think, the big advice I would give people: find a way to have some quiet time where you don't have your cell phone all the time. And if you keep doing that, it's like you're growing at the same time by keeping still.
Wow. So with that, what kind of job you wanted when you were a kid? Is that what you're doing now?
Yes, actually, definitely. I think, especially with my recent transfer to Bloomberg, it's a way to educate people. The best way to empower people is to make them learn how to provide for their own livelihood, not to be dependent on other people. So I think Bloomberg does that. Why I'm really happy with the opportunity to translate very complex issues into very simple language and very simple concepts, so that we can help people empower themselves, so that they can get into business, get into investments, be more independent financially and economically, so they can pursue their dreams. I think that's what I do now at Bloomberg. The second thing I do also is I help build libraries. And one of the reasons I do that is because I want other people to have the same experience as me, wherein if you have access to books, that's really the best tool to have in life. As I mentioned, it's really a personal vocation of mine, because I learned and benefited from that environment of having books. So my understanding is the Philippines does not have a lot of infrastructure or access for learning, especially public libraries, which really do serve a lot of value for other countries, whether it's a developed country like Canada or a developing country like Nepal or India. You really are looking at libraries as a community resource for learning. So I wanted to do that here in the Philippines. And so far it's been good. We've been working with different community stakeholders, local governments, and NGOs. And basically we've been able to help build and renew over 100 libraries since 2010. And it gives me pride and joy, because it also gives, again, the children who are in these libraries and the adults and everybody else, regardless of age or background, an opportunity to become the best of who they are, because they're learning.
Because of that project, Quintino, what are the reaction that you see with the children when you give them the book?
That's a wonderful question, because every time we go to a library, that's exactly what we see. And you know, one of my professors used to tell me the best moment in his life is when he sees somebody open a book and the whole world is open to them. That's exactly what I feel when I see the kids and even the parents. They feel like they're kids again too. So they open the book, it's like they're transported to another world. They're very intent, and you could see them growing before your eyes in terms of wonder, in terms of hope.
So when you see these kids, what's your best advice to them to be the best?
Yeah, well, I think my advice would be to keep reading, keep learning. If you are encouraged to dream, but at the same time find living role models and mentors, I think you have a good formula for reaching your own dreams.
And also, one of our biggest vision for our country, to make Philippines first world. What's your best advice to all Filipinos?
So I think what we need to be that first world country when we're getting there is to invest more in the kind of education that will make our economy do better. The kind of education that allows you to run businesses, not just be an employee. The kind of education that allows you to keep your values while making money. And you know, I think we have a good base to work with, but we need a little more investment in terms of higher education and a more holistic education that teaches you numbers, but teaches you values also, and teaches you service.
All right, thank you very much, Quintin.
Rebecca, appreciate your time. Thank you for helping me share my insights.
Every success has its struggles. Every dream has its trials and tests. Listen to their stories, because if they did it, you can also be self-made.